Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be going over the history and geography of Bengkulu in Indonesia. I think you can see I in part of the D, Indonesia. Bengkulu is located on the island of Sumatra, here along the Indian Ocean coastline. And it is a very narrow province here because it is wedged between this coastline and this mountain range, the Bengkulu Mountains, which are really interesting and beautiful and full of volcanoes. We're definitely going to take a look at some of them on Google Earth later in the video. You can see the city of Bengkulu here is by far the most populous city in the area. All the other little towns that you see, I tried investigating on Google Earth, and there's pretty much not a lot happening there from what I can tell. They are busy and populated, but nowhere near as large as Bengkulu proper. Bengkulu also includes an island right here, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Enggano. I think it's Enggano Island. I couldn't find any pronunciation for it, but we'll touch on that at the beginning of its history. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I needed to say. It's all very wild and jungly up here in the mountains. Very typical for this corner of the earth in Indonesia. It's really beautiful. You have to stick around for the tablet portion, okay? Stick around for that because we're going to have a lot of fun. It's probably going to be longer than the history portion, to be honest. Let's find out. Let's get into the history portion. So, there are many indigenous communities here in Bengkulu and on Enggano Island. Many that are still thriving today, still practicing their culture and traditions, still speaking their indigenous languages. So they've been around for a very long time. And we're not going to get into all of the different groups, just because we have a lot of history to run through. Just know that throughout all of the history, they are there for all of it. There were some empires that rose and fell in this area all throughout history. In the 8th century would have been the Srivijaya Empire. In about the 15th century, the Banten Sultanate would have controlled this area, which I've already covered Banten down here in Java. I'll link that video up there for you to check out afterward. Learn more about Indonesian history. I wonder, I can't confirm this, but Indonesia is a predominantly Muslim country, right? So I was trying to look up when Islam would have entered into Bengkulu. So it was probably during this time of the Banten Sultanate, right? Or it could have been any time earlier, since Islam was introduced to Southeast Asia, this corner of the world, through the Indian Ocean trade. So I don't think this area was a big trade hub back then, but I mean, I wouldn't put it past the sailors and explorers of that time to have come down here and traded and brought their religion with them. So it's somewhere in that Islam was introduced, and of course is the dominant religion to this day. In the 16th century, the Majapahit Empire would have been in control somewhat briefly, because after their reign would have been the European control. So the first Europeans here would have been the Portuguese, who dropped by as they were exploring the world. Enggano, I still don't know, someone has to let me know. Apparently is Portuguese for mistake. So something happened here. There's a story there, I couldn't find it But there's definitely some Portuguese mishap that happened on that island in one way or another. The Dutch would come by and make contact in 1596. Very famously, the Dutch controlled Indonesia for a long time, but they did not control this area here at first. That would have been the British. In 1685, the British were chased out of Banten by the Dutch, and they established this city. And I mean establish in that they set up what is today modern Bengkulu. I'm sure there were settlements here. Like I said, there's a very large indigenous population here. But they established what today is the city of Bengkulu in 1685. They called it Benkulin, which is very British sounding. The British imperial peoples did a terrible job at naming places in the Caribbean and Africa and down here as well. They hear Bengkulu and they go Benkulin. Like, okay, sure, Benkulin. When I say the British, I mean the British East India Company. I should be more specific. It wasn't necessarily a colony, it was a business venture, and they were exporting pepper out of this city here, this town, of course, at the time, very small. In 1717, they built a big fort, Fort Marlborough, to defend themselves from mainly the Dutch at this point. But that would really be for naught, because they would wind up ceding the area to the Dutch in 1824 in exchange for Malacca. And so the Dutch really had control at that point, up through World War II. But I'm skipping something very important, because in the 1920s, 1930s, there was an underground movement for independence from the Dutch, led by a man known as Soekarno. And in the 1930s, he had been imprisoned. They exiled him to Bengkulu, where I think he lived for 4 years, I want to say, in his own little house there. He wound up meeting his future wife, Fatmawati. He had multiple wives, but that was the most important one in history. And this is important because Soekarno would go on to become the first president of Indonesia, with Fatmawati being the first lady of Indonesia. She would also sew the first flag of Indonesia. And we'll see her sewing machine on Google Earth. Not to mention, they were the parents of Soekarno Putri, the first female president of Indonesia. But like I said, the Japanese occupied Indonesia during World War II. And you can imagine the horrors that they inflicted upon the Indonesians and the Dutch that were here. We're not going to get into it for relaxation and monetization purposes. I think what they did to the various countries they took over is quite infamous, and we don't need to go over that. But of course, that led to Indonesia, to Soekarno declaring independence. Pretty much immediately after the Japanese pulled out, the Dutch said, "No, you won't." There was a independence war that lasted until 1950, and Indonesia won its independence. Pretty much the biggest event that I found in Bengkulu since then was on June 4th, 2000, with the Enggano earthquake. It was a 7.9 on the Richter scale, a 6 on the Mercalli scale, which is quite devastating. It's interesting how the Indian Ocean earthquakes don't pop off frequently, but when they do, they are just massive quakes, aren't they? Of course, very devastating to the coastline here and the city, as many Indian Ocean earthquakes are triggering tsunamis and what have you. Not to mention, the native population here was apparently, from what we can tell, we don't know for sure, was apparently extremely affected by the eruption of Krakatoa in 1883. Not far from here, right? It was pretty much in the path of Krakatoa. I think you can see, yep, right here, Krakatoa. And apparently because again, we don't have numbers, but the native population here significantly dropped from the eruption and the clouds and devastation that occurred after Krakatoa, the largest natural explosion in Earth's history that we know of, in human history on Earth. And evidently the numbers have never bounced back pre-Krakatoa. But again, we didn't have a solid number on how many people lived there before then. But you can see the little villages there. None of them have slideshows on Google Earth, which is unfortunate. But there are pictures there. You know what we should do? I think it's time for us to head over to the tablet and check out this area on Google Earth for ourselves. Here we are in Bengkulu, Indonesia. Again, I couldn't get Google Earth to highlight the actual province here, but it's all right here. Let's start by zooming out so you can see exactly where we are. If you're not sure where Sumatra is, that's okay. Yeah, there we go. This is Sumatra. Actually, I don't like that. I like that there. Sumatra. Java's right there. You can see the capital city, Jakarta, right there. Up here is Malaysia and Singapore right there. The Indian Ocean. And the rest of mainland Asia up there. And Australia down there. And here is Bengkulu. So let's start off with historical places. We'll start off here at Fort Marlborough. And here it is, Old British Fort. Oh, I guess that's it. There we go. Pretty neat and old-timey. Old cannons, of course, pointing out to the sea to deter any Dutch, any pesky Dutch that would try to come by and take this land. You can see the flag there. There's some dude. There is, there's the prisons there. There is a story about, its name will be over here. There we go, for Thomas Parr. You can see his little monument there. He was apparently the worst and treated the people here extremely poorly to the point where they straight up murked this guy. They ganged up on him and took him out. So of course the British were like, "Oh, what a hero! He was killed. It's so devastating." But like, that dude deserved it. He was not a good person at all. Like, goodbye forever. He deserved it, to be honest. Anyway, here you can see Soekarno's exile house in Bengkulu, and here is Fatmawati Soekarno's house. So let's start off here. Soekarno's exile house. If it's going to load, there we go. So this is where he lived. I believed it was for 4 years during his exile. And of course it's a museum today. There's his bike, I guess. His bed. Nice little house. Desk there. There he is up there. He was eventually overthrown by Suharto. Cute there. But that's another story, isn't it? Fatmawati. Big beautiful house. Little dining area, maybe. There we go. Oh, wow. All kinds of knickknacks from his time, right? There's this big old cozy bed there. Looks very nice. And nearby is Fatmawati. She was a student of his. She was 15. We're not going to get into that aspect of it. But here's her sewing machine. You can see the Indonesian flag. This is where she made the first flag of Indonesia. There they are. They would go on to be the first, pretty bad, first president and first lady of Indonesia. Isn't that cool? What a fun photo spot where the first flag of Indonesia was sewn. That is awesome. We can't say that in America about Betsy Ross because we can't even actually prove that Betsy Ross sewed the first flag. It's kind of a legend at this point. But we can say that for Indonesia. Oh, there's something. Looks like maybe a wedding happening there. That's fun. But yeah, wonderful history there. Sorry for my brother out there. If you can hear him coughing, I hope not. Let's pop over to Enggano Island. Where'd it go? Hello, there it is. It's always further than I think it is. It's like I said, all these villages here don't have slideshows, but that's perfectly fine. They're probably not set up for tourists, but there's lots of areas that are. Not this one, apparently. I'm pretty sure this one does. This little rock right there. We can take pictures there and enjoy the. Oop, that's a skeleton. Whoop. Let's leave that alone. I guess here's the ferry building. That's cool. They can get all their supplies from the mainland, which is also an island, technically. Let's see. I guess we'll look at. Oh, what's this? Otherwise, we'll look at this resort. This one, please. Man, it's really testing me this week, isn't it? Here we go. Kind of get a good idea of what the beachy area is like. Let's see this resort. Wow. Again, it's not going to be like luxurious, right? But it's going to be very rustic, this island. It's still very beautiful, though. Wow. Oop, big splash there. And doing some scuba. That must be so fun out in the Indian Ocean. Fire pit. That's a lovely picture, isn't it? Very beautiful island. Alright, let's head on back. There's a lot to explore on this island. I would encourage you to hop on Google Earth whenever you have a minute and explore it for yourself. So look at this volcano. Big guy here. Come on. There we go. Mount Kaba. Look at this. In 1833, an eruption ejected water from the crater lake, forming lahars that produced damage and fatalities. Oh goodness, poor villages. But yeah, this is a huge crater on this volcano. Look at that. Beautiful view, though. Lots of neat hiking up here, as you can see. The campsites there. Bringing the flag there of Indonesia. Really fun hiking by the looks of it. There's also, see if I can find it. I thought it was over here. There we go. Hot springs. I really want to go to a hot spring. I was in a hot tub the other day, and I was like, what if I just pretended this was a hot spring? It sounds so relaxing. Out here in the jungle, right? Look at that, you see that? Up to her little chin. It's his little chin there in the hot, muddy water. What a beautiful landscape. A rice field. Cute babies. You see that baby? It's so freaking cute. And enjoying the hot, hot water pouring down with the whole family. Big old family hike. Isn't that a pretty volcano? There's lots of slideshows here, but this is where it's gonna get really fun. I'm gonna put pencil down because this area is just loaded with slideshows, and I thought we'd just poke around and explore it together. So let's head over here and see what we can find. What is this? Looks like a supermarket. Let's see what this is. Oh, wow. Big old hill there, I guess. Oh, I can show you. There's this beautiful area just outside of the city. I think it was down here. Yeah. This is really beautiful. Look at that waterfall. That looks great. And you know it's ice cold in there. That mountain water running off must be freezing, but you know how humid it gets in this part of the world. It probably feels awesome. Yeah, it looks stunningly gorgeous here. All the slideshows I've poked around are just absolutely beautiful. Let's see what this is. What's this? Wow. Wow. Gorgeous. I can hear my cat snoring in the corner. You probably can't. It's really faint, but it's really cute. Let's see, what else can we find? Oh, we should look at some coastline. What is this? Oh, wow. Oh, look at this. Oh, it's absolutely wild, isn't it? This is not a beach, it's a scenic viewpoint. There we go. Wow. It looks like California, to be honest. Wow. That is lovely. Oh, wow. That's gorgeous. What a spot. Oh, that's so pretty. It reminds me of like Highway 1, those big old cliffs. Let's see if we can find a beachy area in the city. This says Sakat Beach. Let's see what that's about. Oh, yeah. Well, that's a fun time there. Everyone's out on the beach that day. Enjoying the Indian Ocean water. Get your boats out. Bring the kids to play in the sand. I don't know why. There's like a moment in your childhood where playing in the sand is awesome, and then you just hit a milestone where playing in the sand is boring. And you're like, why did I find this so fun? But then when you're a grown up and you see the little kids playing in the sand, you're like, yeah, that's pretty awesome. All these families out at the beach. Lots of tubes too. You can go out and play on the waves. Pretty great. Let's see what else we can find. I want to play around. What's this? What is that? Looks like a big old tree trunk. Of course, I don't know any Bahasa at all, so none of the names is giving me any hints. I know I've got lots of Indonesian viewers out there, though. When I covered Banten and Bali, I got a bunch of you guys on board. Hello, hello, welcome back. You guys are so nice. Let's see. Here's another beach by the looks of it. Wow. Oh, that's gorgeous. Oh, I can eat a coconut. Go into caves, sea caves there. Very nice. Let's see what this is. Ooh, cool. That's all there is, though. I wish there was more. How about this? Make sure I'm not going too far north either. Oh, darn, no pictures. Okay. Make sure I'm not going too far. Look, oh my gosh, there's so much more north I could go. There's so much more north I can go. Let's find one more cool spot. There we go. And, oh, here's a mountain. I was gonna end this with a mountain down in the south. Oh, it's only one picture of the bros. The bros hanging out on the mountain. Let's see this one. Wow. Oh my gosh. That's so pretty. Nice smile. Oh, it is just endless, boundless beauty here, isn't it? Oh wow. Carve your name on that old fallen tree there. Come out on your motorbikes and explore. Bring the whole family. Selfies by the waterfall. I love it. Look at that old bridge. Pretty neat. Yeah, there are so many slideshows to look at. But I want to end it in down here on this mountain that's on the border there. I liked the slideshow, so we're going to end it on this, looking at the jungle here and people's selfies. Aww. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy this style of content, please consider subscribing. Next in this series, we're going to be heading over to Angola, which I'm excited because this is our first time in Angola in this series, and I'm excited to talk about it and show you some really beautiful historic stone buildings there. So be sure to subscribe so you won't miss out. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, especially if you learned a cool fact. Let me know your favorite fact down in the comments below. I hope you found this video to be relaxing and educational. And I hope that you have a good night.